The so-called stacked anime season with many big returning series is finally upon us, but the winter 2021 sequels have turned out to be pretty disappointing so far. We got Beastars Season 2, which has a great new opening song, Kaibutsu, but the OP itself is visually dry, only reusing Season 1 animation with slight visual effects, which is nowhere near the creatively interesting stop motion of the first opening. Meanwhile, the ED just plays the opening song again and blatantly replays entire scenes from Season 1 as the credits roll. The content for the first episode isn't much better. We're back at school and dealing with a mysterious weird creature haunting the place. Legoshi and Haru are dating, but Haru wants to keep their relationship a secret for some reason. Meanwhile, Lewis walks back into the school after going missing for 2 months and immediately says he's leaving. Why even have this big return then? Oh yeah, it's to say some vague shit to Legoshi. Also, Juno is still there and is still being led on by Legoshi, but she's gaining her own popularity as the friendly face representing the wolves. Legoshi's deep inner thoughts like, did I find out my life's purpose at 17 years old, and questioning the state of his relationship with Haru are critical crutches that carry this otherwise devoid episode. The skittering sound haunting the school that only Legoshi can hear would be interesting if it was a manifestation of his growing stress and fears, but the ending cliffhanger tells us this is likely just a snake hiding in the vents, completely deflating that entire plot element. Which leaves us only with the briefly mentioned upcoming Beastar selection process, which we haven't made any progress towards in this episode besides establishing Lewis isn't interested and Juno is a likely candidate. Why did we need to spend the rest of the episode on a ghost story that turned out to be a misunderstanding that only introduces a minor character? It might be thematically important in the next episode, but for this episode it was a huge waste of time. What's next? Oh, The Promised Neverland. This anime had an interesting premise of demons raising children to be food, but I had problems with the first season's snail-like pacing. Took them a whole damn season to get out of that orphanage, and now that they're out of it, I figured maybe things would get a bit faster, but that doesn't seem to be the case here. In the first episode, we see the kids lost in a forest before they discover using a secret computer pen and a decoding book gives them a map and guide to surviving in the outside world. It takes half the episode of these kids standing around in a forest to talk this all out. Not just any kids, mind you, kids that have been bred and tested for high intelligence to be quality demon food. But as the audience, I guess we have to be carefully guided along like toddlers, so we need to take forever to explain any of this. Then the next half of the episode is running away from shitty CGI demons trying to collect their escaped cattle children. And at this point, we're no longer in the territory of intelligent drama. Now we're in generic thriller horror. What made the first season interesting was its subtle feelings of doom and helplessness. That's out the window now because now we're just gonna chase children in the forest and look at them scream, which kind of makes me realize maybe I never wanted a season 2 of this. Having this idea that they've escaped their facility might have been enough to satisfy me. Their journey ahead would still be difficult, but do we really need to see it? Looking back on it now, they could have tightened up the first season of The Promised Neverland and made it into a hit movie, which would end with their escape and leaving it to the viewers to interpret their future hardships and the outside world. Could have been framed as a nice message for breaking free of social and mental prisons. Instead, we get CGI demon faces chasing screaming children. The actual start to what could be interesting with this new season comes at the last minutes of the episode, when they discover they've either been captured by demons again or saved by a certain faction of demons that have their own nefarious purpose. But the answer, of course, is left as a cliffhanger for the next episode. I'm kind of hesitant to include ReZero here, as it's part 2 of the anime's second season, but it's supposed to be a return to the series even if it's a split core, so I'm still going to judge it. Remember how at the end of part 1 we learned Roswell set up the assassination to force Subaru into an actual choice? And that return by death actually could leave behind a ruined timeline, so aiming for everyone to be alive and happy could be a bad thing? Yeah, how about we immediately throw that shit away by declaring that we want everything. Subaru makes some bet with Roswell at the beginning that he could stop both attacks and keep everyone safe. Now, I always knew the lovable tracksuit dumbass would still try for everyone to be fine no matter what it takes. That's the nature of who he is. And the theme of being greedy has been a thing here all season. I just wish we could have at least considered the idea that we had to make a meaningful choice. Instead, we just instantly declare no one will die in the first episode back. And Subaru also says he'll accomplish it in his current life for the bet, but it's not like Roswell will be able to check if he had died more times or anything, so why does that point even matter? We did get some backstory about Amelia, which was nice, and Puck finally came back after his entire absence from part 1, even if he did so only to immediately leave by breaking their spirit contract. And we also got a bit more development about the Ryuzu clones, I guess. I think I'm just so upset at the immediate refusal by Subaru to make a choice that most of these don't feel like much to me. It felt like we just forgot why we were even here and then started throwing other shit into the mix to try to distract us from that. Lastly, we have the quintessential Quintessential Quintuplets, which was actually my favorite of the returning anime so far. The fun rom-com harem returns, but opens with boring hospital scenes to continue the previous season's finale of Futaro being sick. I don't remember his sickness being nearly that bad to warrant a hospital admission, but alright I guess. The girls show up with all their quirks and hope their tutor gets well soon. Then we end up having a flashback to some Futaro backstory of the day he unknowingly met one of the 5 girls and hung out with them on a trip, and that was all interesting. Once he's out of the hospital, we have a fun scene where one of the girls is caught with a bunch of failed tests, but he can't tell which girl it was. The scenario to set this up is ridiculous, but considering the nature of the show, that's fine. It involves a girl coming out of the shower at the exact moment Futaro walks into the apartment. She then calls him a pervert and throws a bag at him that she's carrying with tests that all have the names ripped off. This is where we're reminded that as the viewer, we can all tell the Quints apart by the different shades of red hair they have, but to Futaro, they all have the same color red hair. So he's trying to come up with his own way to tell the differences between them. What we end up learning is he can tell them apart based on their very slight handwriting variations, which is a clever way unique to him as their tutor to tell the difference and establishes a deeper connection between him and the girls as a result. Along with this being a fun segment, it was valuable to existing plot elements while growing towards the eventual conclusion to which girl he marries in the end. So yes, I'm unironically saying this harem show is the best returning show so far. Though to be fair, it does have the advantage of being a comedy slice of life, so there's less pressure with whether or not meaningful things happen. All this to say, a big anime series coming back shouldn't be applauded just for existing. They should also bring something substantial to the table. And while I don't doubt most of these shows will pick up steam as the season progresses, I'm left wondering why we couldn't have a strong start with all these shows considering the successes of all of them before. Little happens in the writing of these episodes while the rest is stretched out to fill the 24-minute time slots. For me, there's still a chance for this to recover with next week's sequels to Dr. Stone and That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, but until then, some of the new anime this season have been way better. Heaven's Design Team, 2.43 Volleyball Boys, Horimiya, Geki Dolls, Last Dungeon Boonies, and that Spider-Girl Isekai have all been potentially great new upcoming series with much stronger beginnings. So I'd highly recommend checking those out and letting me know what you think about those, and I also want to hear what you think about the new returning series as well. There's a few returning shows I'm not watching just because I haven't watched any of their stuff before, so I'd love to hear what you guys think of their return in the comments below. Anyways, that's all for this video. Talk to me on Discord, talk to me on Twitter. I will talk to you later.